Hey, beautiful women of purpose. Today's message is for the woman who has been faithful, obedient, and willing. Yet you find yourself quietly wondering why things are not looking the way that you thought that they would by now. See, you did what God asked. You stepped out in faith and you started the thing, right? And instead of clarity or momentum, you're standing in a place that feels unfamiliar, maybe even disappointing. And it's not because, once again, you don't love God. It's not because you have been unwilling, because you haven't. But it may be because what obedience is producing in you right now doesn't match what you expected it to produce. And so I want you to understand and know that you are not alone and that there are many women that have walked this path before you. You may simply be in a season where God is doing something in you before he does something through you. Hi, my name is Teresa V. Smithen-Quintana, and welcome to my channel, a space created to equip, empower, and to encourage Christian women like you to walk out the vision that God has placed in your heart with clarity, with wisdom, and with trust. If you're new here, I am really glad that you stopped by. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future teachings. And if you've been walking with me for a minute, listen, thank you and welcome back. Now, for daily challenges, Bible studies, and devotionals, I invite you to join me inside the Purpose and Calling app that is available now in the Apple and Google Play Store. And if you're looking for a community, with real women that is walking this thing out called purpose, working it out together, you can find us on the school platform in the Society Lilies Among Thorns. All right, so let's get into the lesson, okay? Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about formation, right? Formation for the woman of purpose as it relates to your calling and to your vision. We've talked about how God usually works on the person before he brings forth fruit through their lives, and how many of us want the fruit first, okay, but then hope for the formation to come later or maybe even never, right? And we call that formation before the fruit. And then we talked about the work beneath the work, how we think when things aren't going the way we expected, what we tend to say to ourselves, and why God does hidden work in us before anything becomes visible. Well, today, we're moving into the next area of this series, and this is going to be called obedience. Okay? And before we define it, I want you to remember something. I want you to remember how you felt when you first started seeking your purpose. You were possibly crying out to God, asking him to show you what he created you for, what he created you to do, why you were here on this earth. And you wanted to do his will. You wanted to align your life to his will. You wanted to help people. You wanted to create things. You wanted to address injustices, share knowledge, build something that would make a difference in this world, right? You were excited. You were hopeful. And if we're being honest, you might have been a little apprehensive too at the same time. But guess what? You started anyway. And now here you are, faithful, still showing up, still doing what you believe God have asked you to do, right? Yet you're quietly thinking, I'm not sure what's going on, God. You told me to do this, and I did. But it's not looking like I thought it would. God, where are the people? Where's the momentum? Where's the income? God, where's the recognition? Okay, why are there no likes, God? No followers? Why does this feel harder than expected? And why doesn't it feel like anything is happening? If that's where you are, I want you to know, okay, you are not alone. And this is not random. Here's the first thing I want to make clear. Obedience is formation. It's not just something that God requires, it's something that God uses. Obedience reveals what we truly desire, not just whether we want God, but whether we want what God can give us. And sometimes obedience looks like continuing to work your calling, even when nothing seems to be happening. You're still showing up, you're still planting seeds, you're still doing what you believe that you were assigned to do. But there's no visible fruit yet. Listen, other times obedience looks very different. It looks like being seated in God's presence, learning how to listen, learning how to just be with Him. And for many women of purpose, that kind of obedience is sometimes harder because it doesn't look productive. Listen, for a long time, I did not like the story of Martha and Mary in Luke chapter 10. When Jesus told Martha that Mary was doing the better thing by sitting at his feet and listening, I thought it was unfair. I really did. Why? Because I am Martha. I would have been side-eyeing Mary and I would have been saying, I know you see me over here doing all this work. You can sit at Jesus' feet later, okay? You need to come get up and help me cook this food. Don't you see all these hungry people here in this house? See, I'm the kind of person where if something needs to get done, let's go. Let's do it, right? If God drops an idea in my spirit, I'm already moving before it's fully formed. So I couldn't understand why Jesus corrected Martha because I felt like Martha was doing the work. She was serving until one day, years later, God had to show me this. And he said, you're working for me. You're serving me. You think that you're bringing me glory. But my daughter, you're not sitting with me. You're not learning me. And you're not hearing me. And that's why, Teresa, you feel confused. That's why you lack clarity. And he had to show me that I was doing a lot for him, but not enough with him. And I need you to get this, my sister. He said the work will still be there, but the serving will still be there. But I need you to be with me, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, not when you remember, not when you have time, but it must become a way of living. Because if you're going to carry the vision, you cannot run on empty. You must be able to hear what God is saying to you clearly, and that requires regular time in His presence. Not just reading a devotional, but studying the Word and doing the spiritual work. Okay, that was a hard but necessary pill to swallow at the time when he gave that to me. See, obedience is also necessary because it's how God determines whether He can trust us, with the vision long term. And this part, it matters because if you're unwilling to obey God in year 2 or year 5, it's unlikely that you'll obey Him in year 10, year 20, or even 30 when He asks more of you. Obedience builds over time. And each act of obedience strengthens your faith, it deepens your trust, and it expands your capacity. And that trust is what allows God to do bigger things through you. See, calling is not a moment, it's a life. And God is forming whether you can walk obediently over time, not just when it feels exciting. So let's look at Abraham. Abraham was called in the land of Ur. We know that story, right? And he obeyed. And that one act of obedience didn't stand alone. It was built upon again and again and again in his life. basically until it culminated in the moment when God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, his only son, Isaac, the promise. So let me ask you, if God asked you to give up your promise that he promised you, would you? Now, don't answer that too quickly. Think about that. Because obedience at that level is never about the act. It's about trust that has been built over time, over years. See, Abraham didn't start there, he grew there. Obedience isn't always external. Sometimes it looks like changing your thought patterns. It looks like addressing bad attitudes. It looks like shifting behaviors. It looks like rethinking spending habits. It looks like, forgiving people who have hurt you. It looks like you giving up the jealousy or the backbiting or the gossiping. Other times it means removing people from your life. And sometimes it means walking away from careers, finances, or even recognition. Obedience isn't always neat, and many times it doesn't look impressive. And yes, sometimes it feels weighty. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. I know I keep saying that, but I really want you guys to understand that. But it's because God is working beneath the surface. And so that brings me back to what we talked about last week, the work beneath the work. And I want to make something real simple, real clear right here. This week, I want you to ask yourself, what has God clearly asked me to do without me adding my expectations to it? Where might I be expecting fruit when God is still forming me? Okay? And what would obedience look like if I trusted what God is working? Okay, that God is working in things that I can't see. So you don't need to rush in this season. You don't need to force the clarity to come. You just need to stay honest, stay present, and stay willing. So if obedience looks different than what you expected, it doesn't mean that you misunderstood God. It often means, hear me, that he's preparing you for longevity. Obedience isn't meant to impress, but it's meant to form, okay? So if you're in a season where things feel quiet, slow, or unseen, you're not behind. You, my sister, is becoming, okay? And so as I close, I want you to say that if this teaching has helped you understand what may be happening in your walk, I want you to feel free to share in the comments so other women know that they are not alone, okay? And once again, if you want continued support, there's the Purpose and Calling app that is available to you. And if you are looking once again for a community with women who understand this process, who is walking this out along with you, you're invited once again to the Lilies Among Thorns Society on the school platform. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next teaching. Take care and have a great day.